be for them. Okay, so good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Transform Client Community Support Session. Mariana's coming back again. So, as usual, this is a session that's purely for past and present clients. Mainly because, one, I want to continue to provide support to you to make sure that you do carry on using the tools that you learned with me previously, and two, because the kind of stuff we do in this session, you really have to have already done some of this work in order to get it. There's no point somebody coming along to this who hasn't had any experience in this sort of work at all. They'll have too many questions, which are totally valid questions, but not ones that we here need to ask. We need to ask even better questions than those ones that the beginners might have. So the other thing, of course, as I usually mention, that we're all like-minded individuals here. We're all here for the same reasons, and we all want for the betterment of ourselves and the rest of humanity and all of that great stuff, which means there's no judgment here. So if you have something to say, or you don't understand something, or you've got a comment or query about something, please do feel free to speak up. You can just use the little reactions button to stick your hand up, to raise your hand. And then you can lower your hand if you don't need to talk anymore. And what that does is actually puts you right to the front of the queue with all the cameras that I've got here at the moment as well. So I'll know that you want to say something, or you can just stick your finger up, or just wave wildly. So it'll mean either you want me to come to you to ask a question or answer a question, or your house is on fire, whichever thing. If it's the latter, I suggest you get out. This call is important, but it's not that important. What else do I need to talk about? That's probably about it, just for the start, really. Yeah, as I said, any questions that you have along the way, please do feel free to ask. Don't be shy, and I don't think any of you here are shy anyway, so it won't be a problem. So today, normally what I do is I ask you what's the biggest issue going on with you right now, and then I compile those together and start grouping them together, because quite often you'll find a lot of you will have the same sort of issues or very similar issues. I don't think I've ever had one of these sessions where I haven't been able to group everything into sort of 3 different areas. Most of the time, maybe only 2 areas. But right now, because of all the situation that's going on out there, we've got what were they talking about? Potential interest rates, base rate going up to maybe 6% by next year, sometime next year. We've got inflation going on, so your money that was in the bank last month isn't worth as much as it is this month. We've got fuel bills going up, the whole lot. It seems like it's coming in from every single direction. And because of that, because I've been feeling the pinch a little bit on that, I thought, actually, I've been speaking to a lot of people and they're all feeling the same kind of thing. So even though we may not be able to change the circumstances that are around us, we can change the way in which we respond, the way we react, the way that we feel, which ultimately leads to the way in which we end up behaving. So we can either be in the situation, dealing with it, and taking each day as it comes and doing the best that we can, or we can be sitting here in the situation freaking out about what might happen next month or the month after, and be completely frozen in our tracks and not be able to do anything. So that's the choice. And well, actually, I say you can't change the situation. For those of you who are either here right now or watching this on the recording, if you're in the Practical Magic program, you probably can do something about this, so feel free to have a shot. Feel free to have a go at it. And throw all the different tools at it that you want, and if you've got any questions to ask about it, then do let me know. But apart from that, the general belief is we can't change these external circumstances. That we're just stuck with them. So if we're just working at it from that viewpoint for tonight, when we're in that space where we are worried about money, we have financial problems, and I'm sure each and every one of you have had, whether you're having them now, whether you've had them in the past, or whether you will have them in the future, you know that feeling, right? When there's that concern that is there going to be enough money in the bank to pay the bills next month, or are all my savings going to get eaten up over the next few months because of all the rises and so on? And or will my current wage be able to cover, the wages aren't going up at the same rate as everything else is going up, so what's going to happen? What am I going to have to cut back on? What am I going to have to not do anymore? All those kind of thoughts going through our heads, and it's not nice. This feeling of limitation, feeling like 1 minute I was this big, now I'm being sort of pushed into a little corner and I'm stuck down this sort of size. Or when you look at your bank statement, you see, oh no, I forgot that annual subscription was coming out. That feeling when your stomach just kind of drops, and you hope that it was a mistake. Then you realize afterwards, oh no, it isn't. It is actually that coming out. So when we've got that kind of stuff going on all the time, we just end up having, a lot of worries going on, which obviously isn't good for the health, whether it be mental, emotional, spiritual, physical. We also have a lot of energy being used up worrying, thinking about worst case scenarios. As human beings, we're brilliant at it. You give us one little dangerous thing and we'll take it to the nth degree and make it mean the end of the world in pretty short order. Right? So, and then we'll sit there believing that to be the truth. Even though, if you think about it in the past, all the world-ending thoughts that you had didn't really come to fruition. You got past them and everything was fine. You sorted it all out. Last recession. I mean, most of us here, I think, are old enough to have been through at least 2 recessions now. At the time you're in a recession, it's like, oh, everything's going to go to hell. We're going to end up in the street homeless and starving and all this kind of thing. Yet it didn't happen twice. In fact, in some cases, we might have come out of the other side of it even better off than we were before. So this one is probably not that much different, but it's very easy to just keep projecting into the future the horrors of what it could become, and then end up spending the time here right now believing that to be true and bringing that belief right here, so you end up acting and feeling and thinking like it's true. And again, it's not our fault that this is the case. It's just what we've been conditioned into doing. We've watched our parents do it. We've watched people around us do it. We've watched the rest of society kind of do it. So it is kind of normal when the rest of the pack behaves in that sort of way. And the other thing, of course, as well, is if that influences our behaviors, it means we may make bad decisions. We may make decisions where we hold back when, in fact, we should have moved forward. We may make decisions where we just, we just freeze on the spot and end up like the rabbit in the headlights. And even worse, because we might end up believing that everything is in such a terrible state, we might actually stop filtering ourselves to be able to spot the opportunities. Because here's the really weird thing. Whenever there's times of great crisis, and everyone's going nuts and everything's falling apart, often the ones that keep their heads and the ones that manage to keep moving forward and look for the opportunities, they come out at the other side having gained more. You see this happen. You saw this happen in the last 2 recessions. You probably even know people personally who didn't accept what was going on around them and behave like the rest of the sheep. They moved away from the flock and they behaved differently, and at the end of it, they came out on top. Not because they were trying to, but simply because they were refusing to go with the rest of the crowd, and they find something, or they discover something, or a new idea. They get creative about something, and next thing you know, they've got a new business, or they've got another avenue for income which wasn't there before. All these kind of things. So just at the point when we need to be at our most resourceful, we end up in a state where we are at our least resourceful, when we want to go hide in the cave and grab whatever food we can and hoard it and guard it jealously and hope no bears come along and start asking for their share. So just as a quick reminder, we are here for primarily to practice using the reaction code, or as some of you know it previously, the emotional mastery process. And that's all about being able to change the way in which you respond, the way in which you react to external circumstances, so that your mind can be clear and you can actually make real conscious and clear, if you like, decisions, rather than ones being driven by fear, emotion, doubt, all those other kind of things, which are way more powerful than the mind. In the grand scheme of things, I think a good analogy would be not a storm in a teacup, but a teacup in a storm out in the sea. That's the logical mind. It's being blown around all over the place. So, oh, what's that say? Ooh, not nice. Well, you can definitely do some of this, right? Oh no. Left foot or right foot?
Right.
Darn it.
I slipped in bathroom on Sunday, bathing dogs.
Oh
And
no.
they told me Monday that I hadn't broken it. And then they rang me yesterday morning and said they've had another look, and I fractured it. So I've had to have a boot on, and I'm sorry if I fall asleep. I am so tired. I didn't get to sleep till 1 this morning, and I had to get up and do a hypnotherapy at 9:30.
Well, if you do fall asleep, we'll just let your subconscious take in.
Yeah, just keep talking to me and give me some positive vibes.
Yeah. For those on the recording, Karen just says she's got a fractured bone in your foot. Is that right?
Yeah.
You can't drive at the moment, so yeah, that's not good. Right. Okay. So the reaction code, we can use that to change to certainly diminish, reduce, or maybe sometimes even clear and eliminate the negative reactions and responses we have to the surrounding circumstances. So when it comes to this whole financial fear thing, and it's not just your own fear. Of course, we're caught up in a mass conscious morphic field of it, where it's constantly on the news all the time. It feels like, if you were to think like this, it almost feels like somebody out there's deliberately trying to make you afraid. They're trying really hard, every opportunity. Now, yes, that might be true. On the other flip side of it is because fear sells. You click and you look at you look at the newspapers when something scary comes up, so they can see that they get more sales during that time. So you can't really blame them for running their business on fear anyway. It's what sells. But nonetheless, we're getting caught up in that whole mass consciousness of it as well. So imagine if you use the reaction code in order to nullify or neutralize those feelings and those responses and those reactions. Then what will happen is you won't just be living in survival mode. You can actually start thinking, what can I do going forward? Rather than how can I just try and maintain what I've got right now? You can be that calm in the eye of the storm. Literally, when everyone else is losing their heads, you're going to be the calm one. You're going to be the one that spots the opportunity, spots the gap that other people can't see because, again, all the sheep are running in that direction. And you're the one left standing going, yeah, but what about this over here? Oh, okay, fine. If no one else wants it, I'll go get it then. And of course, when you're not caught up in that whole financial fear pattern, it means that you make better decisions for yourself and for your loved ones and people around you. You lower your stress levels. So you end up having better health, whether it's, again, mental, emotional, physical, or spiritual health. And really important, you have more energy and capacity so that you can be more productive. You can be more innovative and come up with new ideas. You can be more creative. So that's the goal. That's the aim for this evening, to reduce the amount of, money things going on. So does that make sense to everyone? Yeah? Excellent. Okay, good. Now, here are some of the things you all said you would feel if you didn't have that whole financial fear thing going on. I'm just, again, this is in no particular order. So you'd feel free and less weighed down. You'd feel you'd be able to be more inventive. Okay. And our resident nutter, you know who you are, said she would feel supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. I'm going to check the spelling on it later on and get back to her on that one. And so those are the ones who are already feeling like, actually, I can handle, I can deal with this fairly well. And then you start moving on to ones who are feeling a little, you know, feeling it's a little bit tougher, but have that feeling free and being able to be more happy, being comfortable in all aspects regarding money, and then ultimately feeling more empowering or empowered, feeling more relaxed, and feeling more wonderful and positive, feeling excellent, and be relieved. So those are just some of the things there. Now, I started with the good things because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move to the not so good things. So as I speak about these things, I want you to allow yourself to just actually feel what happens inside you. But in fact, I've actually missed a step here. Before I even do that, because we all have busy lives and we're all doing 101 things at the same time, it would be most useful for all of us if we are more present here right now. So I'm going to just quickly, for the next couple of minutes, just, well, maybe about 3 or 4 minutes, run a very simple exercise just to make sure that there's as much of us here as possible. Okay, this is something that I call the pull yourself together technique. I'm still trying to think of a better name for it, but actually it's quite descriptive. It just does what it says in the tin. So what we're doing with this exercise is we're looking to bring our awareness and consciousness into this moment in time right now. Because there'll be parts of you that are busy thinking about the past, parts of you that are caught up in worrying about the future, parts of you that are still traveling down the road, coming back home, reading a newspaper somewhere, watching a TV program. We leave pieces of our awareness all over the place. And at any point when we're doing any sort of transformation work or creative work, it's a good idea to have as much of yourself here as possible. I mean, I reckoned it to be something in the region of we have 20% presence and 40% in the past and 40% in the future. But it might be more useful to have 80% here and 10 and 10 on either side. That way you can bring to bear more of the things that are happening. In fact, I used to have, no, it wasn't one of my clients. There's a peer, a friend of mine, who also did similar work to me. And she used to say that sometimes she'd have clients come in to get their treatment, if you like, with her. And she can actually tell that the part that needs the work stayed at the door. The rest of the person came in, but the part of them that really needed the work, now whether she meant this figuratively or literally, but there was almost like a part of the person's psyche or their consciousness or their spirit or whatever it is that stayed outside the door going, no, you go on in, I'm just going to stay out here and have a cigarette or just just sit down and watch the clouds or something like that. So it meant that when that was the case, the person didn't get the same kind of results because the part that really needed working on wasn't present. So that was one of the things that she told me, which reminded me we want to be as present as much as possible whenever we're doing any of this kind of work. So, everyone okay for that? Yep, okay. So, imagine that there are pieces of your awareness out there somewhere. They could be in a different location, they could be a different time, definitely time and space. So what I'd like you to do is notice the first piece that catches your attention, and all you need to do is notice which direction gets your attention. So if it's up and to the left, fine. If it's in front of you, behind you, below you, whichever is the first direction that catches your attention, send your awareness out in that direction until you connect with that part of yourself. Now, how do you know you've connected with that part of yourself? You just won't feel like reaching any further. If you reach with your arm to start with, and then once it goes beyond your arm, imagine it carries on reaching out with an etherical arm or something. And then you tap that part of yourself in the shoulder, and you let them know that they're in the wrong place. They should be here right now. You're not going to force them to come back. You're not going to pull them back. You're just going to say, oi, you should be here. Make them aware, and then let them come back. Sometimes you might actually feel something coming back towards you. Sometimes you feel a little bit of a buzz or a little bit of a chill, or sometimes you don't feel anything. And then, second direction that catches your attention, reach out in that direction, connect up with that part of yourself, and allow that to come back. And then a third direction. And connect up with that and allow that to come back. And then finally, send out a signal like a sphere in all directions. So let it start from the very center of you, like at your solar plexus kind of area, and then expand out in a bubble that goes out right the way out beyond your house, beyond the planet, tapping all those pieces of yourself in the shoulder and going, "Oi, come on back home. Your presence has been requested. You are required for an audience with yourself." Now, not all the pieces will come back. Some might stay out there. They might have perfectly good reasons for why they need to stay out there. That's fine. We're just trying to get the maximum that we can. And yes, this is a cut down version of the full version of the exercise, which I tend to do more when I'm doing direct one-to-one client work. But for the moment here, we just do the quick and dirty version. Okay. Now, there may be some parts of laggards as a bit behind the rest of them, so just let them carry on. Just let them do their thing. Everyone okay? Now, what you may notice is you might notice that inside has gotten quieter because you've got less voices reporting back things from where they were because they're here now. You may notice that you feel more centered and balanced because, again, your weight is more here now. And you may also feel slightly more solid. Sometimes people will mention feeling a bit lighter, but you'll probably feel something physiologically different as well. And you may feel temperature shifts and changes too. This is unverified, but there was a theory at one point that somebody had that when a person dies, they suddenly become 21 grams lighter because that was the spirit that was in the heart or something like that. Now, that got made into a movie and all that kind of thing. I don't know how much truth there was behind that and how much research has been done with that, but it's a useful kind of analogy to use in this. The reason why you might feel heavier and more solid is because there's literally more of you here. Now, bits of your consciousness might not weigh an awful lot, but if you get enough of it, maybe it does actually maybe it does add up to that 21 grams in the scales. So don't get upset when you get to Weight Watchers. You go, "No, I put on weight." No. You're just more together right now. Okay. So now that we're all here and that we're all here, now what I'd like you to do is, as I start going through these next things, describing the kind of things I've been worrying, these are things that you guys have all put on here. But you don't just look out for your own answer that you wrote when I asked the question of, how do you feel about your current, how do you feel about your current financial challenges right now? But just listen to all the answers because you'll most likely find that quite a lot of them also apply to you as well. There's a reason why you're all here in this call right now and other people haven't got onto this call right now, because there is some connected resonance around this. So, things that are going on. So these I've marked more in green because these ones are okay. In fact, this one was a brilliant answer. So these first three, don't worry about what to feel about these ones yet. But some of the answers were slightly worried, but trying to work on this with manifesting. Good answer, right? Another one is someone else said it's an opportunity to adapt, grow, and learn new skills. Perfect. They've obviously done the training and they're applying it. Another one, slightly nutty again, said, "Ooh, it's exciting, the current financial challenges." Okay. Now, for the rest of us mortals, we're now starting to get where thinking about the financial challenges coming up, you do actually feel like it's going to be a big challenge. It's going to be difficult. Okay. So as I mentioned that, think about where you might feel that when you think about your upcoming finances or the finances and all the, well, whether it's upcoming or whether it's already happening now. Someone else has written about how ending up dipping into the overdraft. So whether you're actually doing this or you're not yet doing this, think about what it'd feel like if you were to end up going there and looking at your bank account, finding it's now in minus. And then someone else has talked about how they're just kind of carrying on, plodding along, trying not to get wrapped up in all the stuff that's going on around right now. So to some degree, there's a certain amount of avoidance with that as well. This next one is brilliant. It was a really good way to express what's going on. So the question was, how do you feel about your financial challenges right now? And they wrote, eek! Oh no! Yeah. And another talked about being afraid. And someone else talked about worrying about the future because inflation might wipe out the savings. You know, all of the hard work that you put into putting that nest egg aside for a rainy day. And it's a storm coming down, just washing it all away for nothing. For what would appear no fault of your own. You didn't make any silly decisions.
Why do you think I'm asking for it? Why do you think I'm asking for it?
You know, it's just that's where you are at the moment, and it's external circumstances. So, you know, sometimes it feels even worse when you'd understand if you did something stupid and went to put a down payment on that Ferrari. But when you didn't do anything wrong, that sometimes makes it feel even worse. So take a moment just to get a sense of how that feels. And let's see. Most of these ones are going to be a feeling of a pressure around you. You might get the odd one that feels like it's deep inside, but typically these things, because they're to do with what might or might not happen, they tend to be more beliefs than they are actual real experience things that have happened. We'll get to the experienced ones later on. So just for now, allow yourself to just feel the pressure of all those things I've just been talking about. And then start from wherever you like, but start reaching out. So imagine that pressure is creating a great big pressure bubble around you. So you're taking your attention, pick any direction you like, and start reaching out. So you're taking your awareness right up to the inside edge of that bubble. Now that bubble could be 2 feet away. It could feel like it's 2 feet away. It could feel like it's on the other side of the planet or galaxy. But just allow your awareness to just reach out until such a point as you don't feel like you need to reach any further, which means you've reached the inside edge. If you're struggling with that, then it seems like either you haven't done this in a while and it's a bit tricky right now, or you feel like you haven't been able to find the inside edge. Just instruct your awareness to take you to the inside edge, and it will do it. We always answer all the questions we're asked. So you go, right, where's the inside edge? Ah, there it is. Now from there, notice that beyond that inside edge of that bubble, there's a great big open space on the other side. Allow yourself to just teleport or be in that open space. If you can be aware of it, then it's inside of your awareness, which means you can choose where you place your awareness. So you were moving up to the inside edge of that bubble. Now you've noticed this great big open space on the other side, and you just allow yourself out into that space. Then you can because you noticed it. Right? So you just turn your attention back then and notice the bubble from the outside. Now this bubble might be multi-layered because there were quite a few things I spoke about there. So what you can do then is keep going. There might be more than one bubble. There might be a bubble inside of another one, inside of another one, inside of another one. So just keep going. Once you've gone out of the inside edge of the first one, then go out of the second one, the third one, the fourth one, the fifth one. Just keep going out of all those bubbles until you get to a space where it just feels like it's big and open. There aren't any other bubbles There aren't any other additional layers. And again, if you're having a bit of trouble with that, just instruct your awareness to teleport you to the edge of the last one. And then go out beyond the edge of that last one into that big open space. And check that that space is infinite. And you can do that by checking, is there another edge? If there isn't, then it's infinite. If there is, then there's another edge, so you have to go up to that one and go out past that one. I'm sure I'm making it sound more complicated than it is. It's just get past all the bubbles until you're out in the big space. And then from there, just keep going further and further and further out into that space. If any bubbles start coming with you, just notice where you're connected to them and just untie the strings. Untie any connections that you've got to the bubble. Or bubbles. And keep going out and out and out and out and out and out and out. Until all you can notice is just that big infinite space. And then once you've finished doing that, just bring yourself back here again and open your eyes back up. And then just check how you feel about it now. Just notice how you feel about it. Right, so we got some thumbs up. Yep. That whole horror of the financial situation isn't so bad right now. Good. Okay, so now that was... If you keep doing that for yourself, that will start breaking down more and more and more of the patterns. Those ones we've just worked on right now, then most likely not going to come back in the same way ever again. Some may have had backup copies. We didn't deal with those ones just yet. So if you do find yourself thinking about, oh no, what's going to happen with my bank account and all the increases in prices and so on, or even, you go to your local supermarket and you pick up that tin of beans, you go, whoa, wait a minute, this is 10p more than it was last week. Has anyone else noticed that? Things happening, things are literally going up 20% or 20% here and there. It's little bits here and there, but all adds up when you get to the end of the shopping trolley. Right? Even when you look at that and go, oh no, as in immediately that's that negative feeling, that almost like only slight, because it's a small amount, right? A slight drop in the pit of your stomach. Even when you get that, think, right, there's a belief in here that says that if this carries on going, maybe eventually this tin of beans will be £200 a tin. Well, no, it won't, because no one's going to pay £200 for a tin of beans unless they're really good beans. but there's a belief that it could keep getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and so on. So feel that within yourself and then go out beyond the edge of it. You're going to get plenty of opportunities in the next few months to experience these things. So you're going to have plenty of triggers and plenty of things to work with. Okay, so what I'm going to move on to now is, even though that sort of dealt with it more in a big general area, our fears about money are much, much deeper. All of us. You'll have financial difficulties that you might have had in the past that can bring up, seeing things as they are now can remind you of that and bring those feelings back up again. There's financial difficulties you might have coming up in the future when you know there's something that you have to get or you have to buy. I mean, we've just recently had both our cars fail on us and we had to go off and get another car. Not ideal in these particular times right now. But so things can happen in the future which you didn't plan for. Then there's also the belief that there won't be enough to go around for everyone. Then there's also the belief that, oh, well, maybe others will be okay through all this stuff, but not me. This is anything else is possible for everyone else but not me pattern. And I'm sure we've all got some element of that, even though we know better in here. From an emotional or reactionary position, there may still be a bit of that going on. Then there's also a belief that maybe there aren't, because of the current situation, we're probably already in a recession. There's no opportunities. All we can do is just try and hang on to what we have and hope for the best, because there aren't any other ways of making money or doing things that can be more efficient or whatever. And that's never true. There's always something. It's just we haven't spotted it. But if we believe it isn't possible, then we won't spot it. And then, of course, there's a mass belief of limited finances. And as we know, finances are all game anyway. The whole fiat financial system. I won't go into it all right now because I'll take far too long and it will just absorb all of the time we've got here. But ultimately, it's a game that's... And I say it's a game because there are rules, there are things that go on in there, and when you try and sit back and think about it logically, it doesn't actually make much sense, but it works in certain ways. In fact, one of the things I had heard more recently, which made total sense, and I'm not trying to get all political here either, but it made total sense when someone described, they were comparing things like cryptocurrencies and other there's also something called there's Norwegian economic. Is it Norwegian or Icelandic? Or it's one of the Scandinavian countries where they actually have a different thinking of economics, which works completely differently to the system that we think is the only one, because the only one we've known. So we think this system is the one that can only be, but it's not true. At some point, somebody decided this is the system we will work with. And one of the big thing that really caught my attention is when somebody said that inflation is a tax on the poor. Which I thought, well, how does that work? Why is inflation a tax on the poor? And so what happens is inflation makes things go up in price. So if you have a lot of things, your things become more valuable. If you have lots of houses, if you have lots of businesses, if you have lots of... you don't have to have lots of yachts, but people with lots of yachts and objects and art and all the rest of it, then that goes up in price. For the majority of people who don't have a lot of stuff, they just have their normal salary and their wage and maybe a little bit of money saved on the side to maybe, for a wedding in the future, or to go on holiday, or to get something for the kids. That money, the value of it dwindles while it sits there. So all those people who don't have a heck of a lot of money and don't have a lot of things find that their money and the value and what it can actually buy goes down. Whereas the people with the things find that the amount of money they now technically have goes up. So this whole concept of inflation is designed to scoop more money from the bigger general masses in order to relocate that money. Again, I'm not going to get political, so I'm not going to say where it's going, but I think you can probably add two and two together. But so this whole system with inflation built in there is actually a system. It isn't a natural order type thing. It isn't a part of nature. It isn't trees growing out of the ground and the sun coming up in the morning. There have been decisions made in the past that have meant that we've run with this system. What that basically means is, for our purposes here, is that this belief that there's a limited amount of money out there and that we're all fighting, you and I and everyone here in this call, everyone listening to this call, we're all fighting for the same pieces of the pot. It's not true. But that's just the way the game is played. So if we can step outside of the belief that this is the only financial system that's possible and this is the only way it's going to work and we have no choice, we're stuck inside of this, that again also limits our options, limits the way in which we can approach things, and limits the way that we can see things. Because we're just tunnel visioned into this particular thing rather than, like earlier on, saying all the sheep going in one direction with the people shepherding them in one direction. If we can stand off to the side and have a look and go, I see, they send They send us down the hill over there, then they dip us in the stuff over here to clean us, then they cut off our wool, and then they send us back over here, and we sit here for a few months to grow more wool, and we go back down there again. Well, at that point, when you're able to stand back and look at that, you go, you know what, I think I'm going to go hop over to this other field and see what happens over here instead, if I feel like keeping my wool. Strange analogy, just came up in the moment, I have no idea why. Right. So for the remainder of the call, what we're going to do is we're going to work on those different areas: a past financial difficulty, a future one, belief that there won't be enough, belief that it's okay for everyone else but not me, and there aren't any opportunities out there at the moment, and that mass belief that there's limited finances going around. No, okay. There was something else I was going to get into, but that'll take up a whole other bit as well. So I'll leave that. Right, so right now then, so we'll think about something in the past. Because all these things make up, they configure together to give us our current reaction to all the news that we're hearing. And when we watch prices go up and so on. So what we're doing now is we're going into a little bit more detail to tackle each of these things one by one. So think of something that happened to you in the past where you had really, really severe financial difficulty. Pick the worst one. You don't have to tell anyone here what it is. So you can pick the worst one without having to worry about other people knowing about it or finding that deep personal secret from within you, that kind of thing. Just think about that and notice where you're feeling that the most. The location matters more than the circumstances. Once you can feel something somewhere in or around your body, that's all you need. You don't need to get further into the story. So think about that time when there was a huge financial difficulty and notice where you can feel that. Now, just to get a quick straw poll, how many of you can feel it deep inside you somewhere? Okay. So for the ones that can feel it inside, for the ones that can't right now, just hang on. I'll bring you in a moment. So the ones that can feel it deep inside, because that means there's something, it also caused a trauma as well. It was that bad, it actually caused a traumatic reaction. So wherever it is, notice where you can feel that, and notice the center of where you feel that. Then pour all your attention, all your focus in towards that center. And then take that focus and that attention to the center of the center. And once you get to there, notice the center of the center of the center. And keep doing that, the center of the center of the center of the center of the center, until you either run into a solid object that stops you from going any deeper, in which case you just go around the object and carry on as if it hadn't been there. This is one of those backup copy type things. So you go around, not backup copy, beg your pardon, the gatekeeper. You go around and keep going down, 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 down through the center of 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 the center until you come out at the bottom. And when you've come out at the bottom, that's where we bring in everyone else. For those who didn't feel it deep inside, you will have a surrounding field. For those who've just been down through the center, you go down through the center until you get to out the other side of it, when you'll notice yourself inside some sort of surrounding field. You'll notice after you've come down through the center of that, you're now in a bigger open space, but it's inside of another bubble. Because often when you get something happen that's traumatic, you'll also develop a belief that you don't want to feel that thing again. Or a belief of how that thing came about or whose fault it was, all that stuff. There will be some sort of surrounding thing. So now for everyone, pick any direction and travel out towards the edge of that pressure field. And go out, 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 out until boom, you reach the inside edge of it. At which point you notice the expanse of space on the other side and you allow yourself out into that space. And then you check that space. Is that space infinite or does it feel like it has some sort of limitation? And if it has some sort of limitation, that will be another surrounding field. Like you had a bubble inside of another bubble, inside an even bigger one. So you travel, do the same thing again, you travel to the edge of that bubble and allow yourself out past that into the even bigger space, and you check that even bigger space to see if that has any surrounding limitation. And if there are more than about 2 or 3, I would say, just for the interest of time, you just instruct your awareness to show you the edge of the last one, even if there are 1,000. So awareness or body, teleport me to the edge of the last one. Get to the edge of the last one and out past the edge of the last one, out into that infinite space. For those of you who are familiar with backup copies, I'm not going to cover those in today's call. But if you do notice some backup copies with these things, well, all you need to do is, if you want to take some time after the end of the call and just go back and clear up the backup copies, you do that just by telling your body to show you the backup copies. Because it will know. You say, right, awareness, show me the backup copies. Oh, there's one, there's another one, there's another one. But for the moment, we're just dealing with the main fields, main beliefs. And then once you're done, just bring yourself back here again. And now we're going to think about a personal financial situation that will be difficult in the future. Think about something that's coming up in the future. What is it? Is it the end of your mortgage where you have to pay the endowment? Or is it some big event you've got coming up? Is it the bill from the builders for the work that you're doing in the house? Is it possibly having to buy yourself an automatic or even a self-driving car? So because you can't use your right foot. There are obviously things that can come up in the future where we're actually going to have to. I know I'm being silly about it, but serious things that you've got coming up in the future. If you have children, do they have to go to college, university coming up, or something else, or are they buying their first house and you're going to have to help them with the deposit? Have you got another big outlay that's going to be happening? Are you moving and you have to put down a deposit somewhere? Anything that you've got coming up in the future that's going to be a big financial burden, as it were. So think about that. And this one will tend to be a pressure in the surrounding field, because this isn't something that's happened to you yet, so you're not likely to have something that's deep on the inside. If you do, then you can come back to do that one yourself later on, where you just go down through the center of it. But with future ones, it's most likely to be a surrounding pressure. So notice where you feel that. And then from the point where you feel it, start from there and reach outwards. Again, another surrounding bubble, because these bubbles are basically beliefs. They're things that, this particular one, it might say something like, you won't have saved up enough for this. Or what happens when you get to this thing and you don't have it. Or are you going to have to sacrifice other things in order to be able to pay for this thing? Or is it that mortgage payments are going to quadruple? And if it helps to try and trigger that thing, picture either the statement or the bill and see the number in front of you. And then feel where that pressure is and take yourself right up to the outside edge of that pressure. And then once again, right out past the edge of that. And the edge of any other additional layers. And then once you're done with that, again, bring yourself back here again. Everyone okay so far? When we're dealing with financial patterns, these are, I mean, here's how serious these things usually are, or how seriously we take it. We still have, even in this day and age, where if you become completely financially destitute, it doesn't mean that you're going to die. You know, usually the state's going to look after us if that happens. Only in very extreme circumstances where, you know, people end up out there in the street and so on, but it's exceptionally rare for the number of people that there are out there. Yet, in the past, money was literally life and death. It still is in a lot of the rest of the world. And the funny thing is, when we talk about the 1%, yes, we have the 1% who are your Jeff Bezoses and your Elon Musks and your Saudi princes and all that kind of stuff. We have our 1% within our world. But actually, when you look at the 7.9 billion people on the planet, we here in the West, we are the 1%. We have way more than we could have, than some other people in other places could ever dream of. This is why the financial fear things, it is much more of a belief than it is a reality. It is to do with what we've been conditioned to, educated, cultured into believing, that money equals life or lack of money equals death. So it literally feels like a life and death thing, even though in reality that isn't true anymore for us here. So there's that belief that there won't be enough. You know, like in our culture now, a big problem we might have, okay, in someone else's culture, a big problem might be the water is poisonous, but we're going to have to drink it anyway, and we had to walk 5 miles to bring a bucket load of this crap back home because we have no choice. For us here, a problem might be, damn it, my internet signals dropped down to only 200 megabits per second when I should have had 400. I'm so annoyed. This is terrible. Everything's ruined. So the scale of problems and the life and death connection that we have to that is totally, when we step back and look upon it logically, it just doesn't match. It doesn't make sense. But this stuff, of course, isn't happening here. This stuff is happening down here, in the emotions, in the reactions, and things that we've been programmed with, things that we picked up along the way, you know, from our education, from our parents, from the people around us, from media, etc. All the things that make up what we believe. So take a thought for a moment that, or just think that there isn't enough for everyone. Have I kind of ruined it by saying that last bit now? Anyway, I might have done. Just think about how there's not enough. Think about that idea that there's a whole planet full of people and there's not enough for everyone on the planet to have a 60-inch flat screen TV. Right? There's just not enough. Or maybe that there just won't be enough for you. Maybe the money you've got coming in is not going to be enough to cover the money you've got going out. This is all a scale thing. It's all about whether it's lack or abundance. But think of the feeling of lack right for now. And notice where you feel that. And again, this one, because as I've just described, it is a belief rather than a reality, it will be something we tend to feel more like a pressure. So start from wherever you feel it the most, whether it's your shoulder, your neck, your chest, your back of your head, corner of your elbow, wherever you feel it the most, start from there and reach outwards from there for the edge of this particular bubble. This one that says there's not enough. And take yourself right to the outside edge of that bubble, and then out past the edge of that bubble. Yeah, no, just you can, if you like, you can notice if there's any sort of texture or color or shape or form on the outside surface of this thing, just so you can have something to play with. And then start moving away from it. Yeah. Does it come towards you? Does it move away from you? Does it stay where it was? If it comes towards you, you're pulling it along. There's some part of you that's still connected to it. Just locate where that part is. Just trust whatever it is your body tells you. If it says, oh, it's something around my waist, or oh, it's something on my knee. Just trust wherever your body locates that, and just untie the string, the chain, the tractor beam, whatever it is that's connecting you to that field. If it stays still, then just go back inside that bubble and collect up everything that's inside the bubble and just bring it all out with you into the expansive space. You've obviously just left something behind. Just collect everything up. But whatever you do, the aim is to go further out into the expansive space to the point where you lose track of that bubble. You can't even locate it anymore, even if you wanted to. And again, there may be additional layers to this. So if there are, just keep going. Tell your awareness to show you the edge of the last one, and then out past the edge of the last one, out into the infinite space. Okay, and then once you're done with that, just bring yourself back here. That's what I started talking about after the last exercise. When we deal with financial patterns, these are usually huge. I probably should have warned everyone about this at the beginning. It means that there's going to be a lot of shifting going on internally. There's going to be a lot of redressing, rebalancing things, and so on. So after we're done with this session, you may feel a little bit discombobulated. In fact, if things are going correctly, you should feel somewhat out of sorts and a bit out of place. So just take it easy. Take a rest. Drink plenty of water, because there will be a lot of rejigging. As I was saying to somebody the other day, imagine you've got a room, and the room is laid out the way it's been laid out for years. There's a TV over here, there's a sofa over here, there's a table, there's a coffee table over there, there's an armchair over here. Then suddenly someone takes the sofa away. Now you've got this great big empty spot in the middle of the floor. So now you have to rearrange everything. The TV has to go to a different place. The armchair is going to have to go where the sofa was before. And the table is going to be rearranged and all that in order for the room to be right again. So if you take that analogy, imagine what's going on here. We're taking away sofas and walls and foundations and cellars and all sorts of big chunks of the building right now. So there will be a period, it'll be a short period, but there will be a bit of a period of resorting things to put them all back put things into a different order so that it functions with the pieces it now has left. So, sorry, Fiona, if that's just bringing more building work stuff to mind. That wasn't intentional. Okay, so the next one is okay for them others, but not me pattern. somehow I'm going to get it worse than everyone else. Somehow other people might be all right, but I'm the one that's going to be in trouble. This is to some degree the martyr pattern, the I'm going to be the biggest loser pattern. Most people have this, maybe not everyone has this, but if you don't have it in exactly the same way, then think about it in terms of comparison. When you compare to how well other people are going to be doing financially compared to you, or especially if you want to compare where where you don't think it's fair, it's unjust. In fact, that might actually be a good way to put it. So it's okay for other people, or other people get more things or better things, but I don't, and it's not fair. Think of that for a moment and notice where you feel that. You know, I'm a good person. I don't deserve this stuff to happen to me. This isn't fair. I didn't make any dodgy decisions. It wasn't me that decided to print loads of money and send it out there and then make interesting new shifts to the budget. So it's primarily the it's not fair kind of thing. And again, notice where you feel that, and then start from that place and reach outwards. This one might be a bit lighter. You won't feel this one quite so heavily because it will be a much, much bigger kind of bubble because it's more subtle. This isn't going to be an obvious one that people will think of when they think about financial fears. So just get your awareness to teleport yourself out to the edge of this bubble, and you might find it's quite large. Maybe even galactic in scale. And then once you've got to the edge of that, allow yourself out beyond the edge of that, out into an even greater, even more open space. And once again, check whether that space has any limit. If it does have a limit, go up to the limit and go past it. If it doesn't have a limit and goes on forever, great. If it doesn't go on forever, keep going to the next limit, the next one, or teleport to the last one until you do get out into that big open space. The one that goes on forever. So the actual techniques are relatively straightforward. It's just knowing where to apply them and what to target and what to choose. That's probably the trickier part. But when you do this for yourself and you find, oh, I don't know, I can't think of those kind of things. I've been doing this for a while. So I've thought about this. I've worked with a lot of people on these things. So over the years, I've gathered this information of where these patterns are and what kind of types they are. You may not have that. So the easiest thing for you is to notice any time you feel there's a conflict or some discomfort going on inside when it relates to things financial. Then just notice where you feel that thing, and if it's something that's deep inside, you go down the center of it. If it's something that's not deep inside as an area, you go out beyond the edge of that. Okay, we're scheduled here for an hour and a half, which would take us up to about 8:30. However, we're going to stop the exercises fairly soon and get to questions and answers shortly. So, yeah, I think that should have been written on the invite or the details. That says 90 minutes. But just for those of you, if you do need to dash off, don't worry, I am recording this as well. So I will send out the recording to everyone after this as well. So, okay, so the next one I want to work on is the one about how there's no opportunities. You know how it goes. You think, right, okay, I've got my job. Maybe I've got a part-time thing. Maybe I've got some savings, but I don't have any other way of getting money. What am I going to do? What am I about to start a drop shipping business right now, or am I going to start a coaching business? Am I going to do all those kind of things? Just think about. We all tend to think about it in very big absolute terms, when in fact there might be little things. It might be cancelling the gym membership to the gym that you haven't been to in the last 6 months, or it might be something. There are lots of different ways and lots of different things, but we often don't see the opportunities and the possibilities when we are in the mode where we think there's nothing else that can be done. We kind of write our own reality when that happens, when we think that's it, there's nothing can be done, I just have to try and survive this, and that's it. Does anyone else feel that? We get a sense of that when it comes to where am I going to find more money? That there aren't many other opportunities. I mean, you don't have time to get more part-time jobs or all that kind of thing. But yet, money's around everywhere. We just have to spot where to tap into that vein, if you like. And I mean that in terms of gold, not blood. That's horrible. So have a think about how few opportunities you personally have in your life to be able to make more money or not spend as much money. Thank you. So you think to yourself, well, I've already thought of all the ways that I can make money and I can't think of any more. Or I've thought of all the ways, I've done my budget and I've cut back on as much as I possibly can, and there's nothing else. I can't cut back on anything else. This will probably be more like a feeling of being limited, held back, or to some degree, some sense of frustration. So just pay attention to that feeling, how there aren't any more opportunities, or there aren't any opportunities that I can take up. And then notice where you feel that. And then again, this will be typically an outside one. Does anyone have this on the inside, by the way? Can anyone feel this somewhere deep inside them? Or does it? No? Okay. So yeah. So this one, again, is more a belief type. So that's why it is going to be more of a surrounding one. So again, start from wherever you like and reach outwards for the edge of this. And then you reach out until you get to the inside edge, and then allow yourself out past that edge into that expansive space, and turn your attention back and notice this one. Does it have anything? Well, first of all, notice if there's any sort of texture or color or sound or feel about the outside surface of this thing. And then, just for fun, notice if it has anything to say about you or your life or how things should or should not be. If it does have something to say, it will be immediate. It will be something about you. If it doesn't have anything to say or nothing immediately comes to you, that's fine. It either doesn't actually have anything to say, or whatever it has to say is so complex that the mind won't be able to process it quickly enough, so it just says, I'm not even going to bother saying anything. But whatever it is this belief that there aren't any more opportunities useful to you? Is it something you want to keep believing in? Is it something that's helpful to you? Is it something you want to keep using your energy fighting or avoiding or maintaining? This particular belief. Now the answer should be no. If it's yes, you've got another pattern going on there, but the answer should be no, in which case you can allow this particular pattern, this belief that there aren't any more opportunities for you, you can allow this pattern to retire. And as you do, allow yourself to move further out into the expansive space and allow that pattern to go off and do whatever it wants to do. It can go gardening, it can go on a cruise, it can actually come back and work for you in another capacity. So here's the thing with these patterns, they were designed in the first place by your own awareness to protect you. And the fact that they're still here now after all these years just goes to show how dedicated they are to protecting you. And all you're doing right now is you're speaking the language that those patterns speak. It's almost like a language of dreams. You're speaking the language that they're speaking by feeling your way around these things, by sensing these things, because logic won't be able to process the information that's in, the masses of complex information that's inside those fields. So what you're actually just saying to it is, look, thank you so much for protecting me. Thank you for dedicating all these years and all your efforts into maintaining this pattern. But actually, I'm not 7 years old anymore. I don't actually need this kind of protection anymore. You've done your job. You've done a great job. You've got me to where I am now. Now you are free to go. You are free to go and do something for yourself. You are free to go and do something you've been dying to do for all these years, but you've been stuck in this job. Or you're free to come back and work for me in another capacity and help me in another way. Because we don't like to get rid of good workers. And these patterns have been exceptionally loyal and hardworking, and they've been breaking their backs to try and keep you safe. So we don't want to discard them, we don't want to treat them like the enemy, and we definitely don't want to blame them for what's happening to us in the outside world. Because that's a really, really big thing about these techniques and tools in the reaction code. We're not dealing with the enemy here. If anything, we're actually rescuing them for having to do the cruddy old job, the same cruddy old job for the last few decades, and then having to do a few more decades of it. We're finally turning around and giving them freedom, because we're the ones that hang on to them most of the time. Okay, so I think in terms of the exercises, that's quite a lot we've been doing this evening. So by this point now, everyone's going to be either getting a little bit tired or feeling a little bit discombobulated or buzzing way too much or feeling, all over the place. So I'll just open up at this end part here for any questions. Does anyone have any questions about anything we've just been doing or even how you apply this stuff? Go ahead, Andrew.
Why, thanks for that. That was really good. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, can hear you great.
Oh yeah, that was amazing. I feel so empowered now. I felt like I've just had like a lot of weights just being lifted off my shoulders and my whole body. And I think you're right about the questions to ask. It's finding out which is the best question to ask. The one you mentioned about the opportunities, when I did that, and it actually started off inside my body, but I felt like it was a surrounding pattern as well. So that's what the question is really. It's like, where do we work on if it feels like it's internal, but it also feels like it's surrounding pattern? Like, how do you differentiate between the two?
If you've got one that you can't differentiate or you're having difficulty differentiating, use both. Go through the center of it, and then so sometimes you can actually start picking up more than one at the same time. Especially if, as some of you have been doing this for a while now, you can often pick up more than one pattern at the same time. If you pick up one that's inside, it feels like it's something inside and it feels like it's surrounding, what you can actually do is you can cheat a little bit. So, let me, I haven't got a character. Okay, I've got this little character here. Say hello to Beast Boy. There's a character from a cartoon that I love. It's just funny. All right, so say Beast Boy's got this feeling in the center of him, and he's got feeling around him somewhere as well. What he can do is he can start by going down the center, and then once he's come out through the center and he's come out the bottom, he can then carry on downwards or outwards to then hit the inside edge of that bubble. So in one smooth move, you've actually dealt with both. So you've gone down the middle, you've carried on going past the middle, right the way out until you get out of the middle and down at the bottom, and then you carry on until you hit the inside edge of the surrounding field.
That's what I was doing. So that's good.
Perfect.
Thanks for that, Why. Thanks, everybody. That was brilliant.
Yeah, good. So there are other times when you might feel something whereby, I can feel it tight around my throat, I can feel the pressure in my head, I can feel there's something across my shoulders. The first thing you do when that happens is you check, okay, do they feel like the same feeling? Or does it feel like there are actually three very distinctly different ones? If they are distinctly different ones, you then work through each one in turn. You go, okay, which one came up first? Well, it's the throat one came first, so I'll go through that one. Then it was the shoulder, then it's the head one, then it's the shoulder one. Excuse me. Oh, they're dropping like flies. It's getting late, isn't it? Okay. The next question then. Has anyone else got something they want to ask, or even something they want? Oh, go ahead, Gaynor.
Yeah, sorry to go sort of like a bit woo-woo. It's just me, isn't it, really? But when going back to when you do the pull together exercise, this is, by the way, like Andrew said, this has been fantastic tonight to do these exercises again. But on the pull yourself together one, what is that someone else came back that I didn't recognize as me? Would that be a past life thing, as a little spirit dropped in? Because, you know, I'm a sort of, you know, if you believe it's something psychic medium-y. What was that?
You know what? I don't know, because often you set the intention. If you set the intention just to pull back parts of yourself, you tend to only get parts of yourself. Now, it's interesting. Now, in fact, that one's really interesting, because what it may be is you've got a piece of somebody else that you've ended up identifying as part of yourself. That would make for a heck of an interesting read for a psychologist. So what I recommend you do on that one is, when you've got a moment, call up that part of that part that came that you didn't feel like. You think, hold on, this doesn't feel like it's part of me. Right. So call that part back and actually more or less have a psychic dialogue, if you like, with it, just to inquire with it. Okay, you know, where are you from? What are you about? Just non-judgmentally, just a flight of fancy type of conversation with it, and just see what comes up. And it may well turn out to be, yes, it could be something that's past life that is you, but it's just dressed differently or is in a different form. Or actually, it's not even anything to do with you. It's been misidentified as part of you, and maybe she should go back to the real her. That might be more useful.
Actually, it was a him.
Oh, him. Okay. So go back to the
Yes,
real
we
him,
go,
which
yeah.
might be more useful for him rather than hanging out thinking he's part of you.
Okay. And very quickly, if I may, just another quick. Why is it that sort of people put up with certain things when it's blatantly obvious that they shouldn't? It's like a friend of mine put a post about, you know, she boils the kettle once and then puts the rest in a flask, and, you know, doing all these things to try and save money because of the fear of the electric bills and all that sort of thing. And I'm thinking, why are people going through this when it's like, why do people put up with it when it clearly is a great big con, really?
Again, it's back to that group of sheep in the field. It is actually really hard to break away from the rest of the flock, because then the foxes might get you. And it's that thing. There's safety in numbers, even if the numbers are all being threatened together, and you might have been safer jumping ship rather than sinking with the entire Titanic. So it's part of that. And
Yeah.
you know, I'm not really in a place to be able to tell people which way they should go on that one. But ultimately, if we have less conflict within ourselves, therefore it means that there's less conflict for external factors to be able to trigger and be able to use against us. Therefore, decisions we make will be more congruent and more aligned with who and what we really are.
Okay, yeah.
Rather
So-
than our fear making us run with the rest of the flock, or our bravado making us deliberately step outside of the flock and get ourselves hurt, when actually it would have been a better idea to stay with the flock.
The flock's a bigger target, perhaps.
Maybe, because if I was a
really
fox,
like
I'd go
it.
for where there were loads of sheep. I wouldn't go chasing after this one single sheep, because I would go round and round a field. Maybe the sheep's faster than me. But if there's a whole bunch of them, I'm going to catch one, aren't I?
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Any last questions from anyone else? Nope. Okay, brilliant. Well, thanks for coming this evening. And the next one I've got planned is in November, because I'm doing these every 2 months at the moment. And let me just have a quick look at the date. I did actually have it earlier on. If you want to just jot this down in your calendars, it's... hold on. Any minute now. It will be the Thursday the 17th of November. Unless otherwise notified. And in that one, we'll return back to the normal... well, unless something else crazy in the world has happened by then. We'll return back to our normal format, whereby I'm asking you guys, what is it that you've got at the moment that's the most challenging thing in your life? And what's stopping you from being able to overcome that? And then we'll break down those patterns that are stopping you from overcoming it. Yeah. Brilliant. So, but apart from that... I'll wish everyone a good evening, a good night, and carry on playing with these things. When you see the things in the news, you hear the Bank of England's putting up the base rate again. The moment you start seeing that, and you start thinking, oh no, what's that going to mean for me? The moment the fear comes in, don't spend too long thinking about what that means. Just work on where you can feel it immediately. Because you can't change the way in which the Bank of England is going to behave. The only way you can change is the way in which you're going to respond to it. And what that's going to mean for you in your day-to-day life. So, better if you go around with less stress and less fear about it and just get on, basically. All right then. And on that note, I'll bid everyone a good night.
Thanks, Y. It's been really useful. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Oh.